Welcome back to Unfinished Business. This is the show where we explore real stories, wins, and work in progress behind business growth. Hi, I'm Kimberly Griggs, and I am your host. And today I am sitting with Peggy Gruenke. She is the co-founder of CPN Legal, and she helps solo and small firm lawyers turn chaos into clarity through technology, bookkeeping, and smarter processes such as automation. Peggy lives by a quote by Seth Godin that I love. While waiting for perfect, you've permitted magical to walk on by. And that mindset has fueled her 20-year journey in serving her clients. Peggy is also an avid cyclist and plays an active role as a grandparent taking care of her grandbabies. So, Peggy, thank you for being here and sharing with us your wisdom and insights on how to unlock ourselves from this trap of perfection and start building processes into our business that really move the needle. So I want to thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. I'm looking forward to sharing some insight that I've learned along the way with your people that are listening in.
Thank you. Well, let's first unpack that quote. So tell me, your philosophy behind that or what that Godin quote means to you.
I think since I live with a husband who's a perfectionist and a daughter who has inherited that, I came across it and I actually have it on my wall in the office because I have to tell my staff is that nothing's ever going to be perfect, right? And when you talk about that, it's actually true. If you keep waiting for perfection, you're missing so many other things along the way, right? So do the best you can do in many small ways just to be moving forward. Okay, because sometimes trying to be perfect just paralyzes you and you can't make a decision. So even in when I work with my staff, we got 31 bookkeepers here now. When we're working on things, it's like just make a decision. It's not always going to be the right decision, and that's the same with your business. You got to make a decision, and we collaborate very well together, which is another key to growing your business. You've got a team behind you to help you make your decisions. So don't wait for perfect. Make the decision. It's going to be wrong sometimes. Okay. But the best thing about being wrong is you learn from that mistake. If you never make a mistake, you're never going to grow and learn and move on. So that's my theory on that one.
Yeah, I love that. Fits right in line with something I heard Sarah Blakely say one time, which was she grew up and her father would ask her before she started Spanx and before she went into her huge entrepreneur journey, "What did you fail at today?" And that's something that always stuck with me because yes, I think that analysis paralysis happens to every business owner at some point, but you have to make so many decisions that you've got to learn to be okay with the setbacks
What?
that come as a
Yeah.
natural part of that process.
The other thing is one thing to ensure that things actually work out is to embrace the fact that nothing is ever exactly on spec. Okay. And you're going to have to build resilient systems. And a key terminology we use in our company is to learn to pivot. You have to learn to pivot. And our daughter is our COO. And when she's talking to the staff about implementing some new processes and procedures, she always starts by saying, "Hey, we're going to try this new procedure, but we might have to pivot on this, in 3 to 4 weeks. If this isn't working, we're gonna try something else." So we're not rigid in what we do, but we're resilient in that we keep trying.
Absolutely. I love that. Wise words. Well,
Yeah.
Peggy, take me back to the beginning. So, I noticed that you have a computer science degree and you did some IT consulting, but how did that lead into you co-founding your own business?
That's a great question. It's always that journey. This is rightfully probably my third career, my third act, right? My third act in my journey here. I did start the world in IT consulting. And when we did that, I had stopped to have a family and raise my kids, right? So we had moved to Canada for a while and I couldn't work up there. So I just hung out with my kids. And then when we moved back, my kids were older. So I was going back to work at that point. And the Cincinnati Bar Association was looking for a director, but they wanted somebody with some database experience because they were implementing new software. So it was a perfect job for me, more perfect than I realized, actually. My database background turned out well. I fell fell in love with the nonprofit world and I fell in love with working with lawyers. So it was actually a really cool mix for me. So in that role as director of membership at the Cincinnati Bar, I built a lot of great relationships with the lawyer community in Cincinnati, and that expanded into the lawyer community across the United States because I became very active in the American Bar Association and their legal tech community because I spoke at the legal tech show there. I got involved with the ABA's Solo Small Firm Committee, and I was chair of that committee. Things just started developing naturally because I'm a pretty go getter. I just get involved in things and do a lot of volunteering. Talk a little bit about my strengths. I'm definitely an activator and a communicator. So that evolved into that role. And eventually I had the opportunity to go manage a law firm. So I left that job, which still to date is probably one of my favorite positions I ever had. And I managed a law firm for about 8 years. But while I was doing that, I kept mentoring lawyers, having lunch, having breakfast. They were starting to practice. What should I do? So I was
Young
giving away a
lawyers.
lot of free advice, right? And at the
Yeah.
same time that was happening, everything was moving to the cloud. Clio had come out, My Case came out, Practice Panther, all those cloud-based law practice management systems were kind of born during this time. So
Mhm.
my background in IT made sense to help these guys set up their virtual law practices. And that's really where I started working with lawyers. And I kind of dipped my toe into that world and was doing it kind of moonlighting, if you want to say, while I was working at a law firm as their COO.
Wow.
And over time, I just started doing more and more of it. My husband had started his career as an outsourced CFO for small businesses.
Mhm.
We had owned our own small business as well as an upscale billiard club in Cincinnati. But eventually, one night we were sitting at our home office, looking at each other across the way, and realized that maybe it made sense for us to join forces. I mean, I was really liking what I was doing with the community, and that's how CPN Legal came about.
Love
Long
that.
story,
That is
but
so
that's how
cool.
it
No,
happened.
it's
Yeah.
such a convergence of you never know where things will lead you, but by saying yes and constantly growing and constantly making connections, who knows what that journey leads to? That's so cool.
You're right. It's all about connections. You're right. I had no
Yeah,
idea. I had no idea that what I was doing back then was going to build up to what I built with CPN Legal. And it was all
absolutely.
about those connections. Yeah.
You mentioned mentorship. You were mentoring young lawyers as they were beginning to kind of branch off on their own and think about starting their own practice. But was there a specific moment through those mentorship relationships that you just knew that lawyers were going to need a lot more guidance in terms of building their practice?
Um, not it wasn't like a particular moment. It just gradually happened to tell you the truth because they needed help in so many things. Um, there wasn't in a particular moment that it came down to bookkeeping was the thing. I'll be honest with you, because at the time I was helping them set up their law practice management software, like whether it was Clio most of the time it was Clio because that's what I was a certified consultant in. And then we were looking at setting up their cloud-based document management system. I was advising them, how should they set up their website. I was wearing a lot of different hats, okay, and helping them set up their virtual practice. And at one point, I decided to do what I was preaching because I was preaching to my lawyers build a niche practice, right? If you build a niche practice, it's a lot easier to advertise. It's a lot easier to talk about when you go out. So I was looking at my own business, reflecting on it, and I realized that I'm wearing a little bit too many hats. And when my husband, who's the CFO part of the business, and I looked at each other, that's when we really started to hone in on let's just do bookkeeping. Okay, bookkeeping and accounting is going to become our thing. And it
Yeah,
wasn't until that moment that I really gave up advising lawyers on marketing strategies or other types of strategies. And it really just became Clio, QuickBooks, accounting, bookkeeping services. And I
yeah.
still advise lawyers on how to start businesses because it's just natural for me to do, right? So, yeah.
Interesting. So, what did those early years or days, even of CPN Legal coming to life, what did that look like?
So it looked like we worked from home, right? And I'll tell you what it looked like, Kim. And to your people listening that are starting their own business, I had no intention of building a business. I have 31 employees now, right? I have 350 clients. I had no idea this was going to happen. So it was accidental growth, right? Is a good way of saying it. But at the time, we were working it from home together, and the light bulb moment when I knew that it was gonna be something, Kim, was one day my husband had been trying to tell me that we needed to have an office. We needed to get out of the house. "Peggy, we need to go get office space." And I kept saying, "No, we're fine. We can just keep working out of the house." And one day he said, "No, we're gonna go get office. There's office space up the street from here." So I finally said, "Okay, let's do it." So we did, and we moved into some office space. And when we got into that office space, we realized we needed to hire somebody. So we made our first hire, okay? And then we made a second hire. And all of a sudden, my mindset changed. I had to change, and my mindset went from me just working a little thing to me actually owning a business. And once I started hiring and growing and that mindset changed, it just opened up the doors. And I don't really know what happened. And the only thing I can contribute it to was my mindset change to running a business instead of working in the business. And it was when we started hiring and moving out that that happened. Every time we hired, we had to knock down a wall and grow. Knock down more walls and kept growing. So people
How
kept
did
coming.
you Yeah, I love that you share that because I think that is the key moment when you go from maybe this could be a side thing or an income replacement idea to this is going to take on a life of its own. And, I think there's a lot of us, particularly now, there seems to be such a drive and there's so much buzz about starting your own business, but really getting to that level is a completely different ballgame. I'm curious, like, how did you know when was the right time? You had enough work to sustain the first employee and then the second. How did you come to that conclusion?
That is a great question because I never thought about it. So one thing you'll learn about me is I just do. I just proactively do stuff and my husband cringes. And I'll be
Too.
honest with you, I just act. I have a lot of faith in my decisions and most of them have never failed me, but I'm a very positive person and I think I act upon positivity and it follows my decisions, to be honest with you.
Love
So,
that.
and people pick up on that. Like when I have calls with people, they just pick up on the energy of it all. And I feel like if you have that energy and that positivity, it drives what you do and it drives your decisions and everything will grow out of it. So I just did it, Kim. We just said, let's do this. And it happened.
And you were in it.
I was in it, man.
Waist deep. Yeah.
I was in it and we kept doing it. So it's fun. We have our original employees obviously are still with us and we look back on it and they smile and laugh and they're like, "Peggy, did you ever think you were going to have 31 employees?" And I'm like, "No, I never thought that that would ever happen." So,
So amazing. Okay, well,
yeah.
staying on the subject of hiring, you share in your profiles that your killer combo is strategic, activator, and achiever. Can you explain where that comes from and how do you use that in your hiring, perhaps?
Hiring is the toughest thing. And hiring is the toughest thing any business owner will do. It comes above anything else because your hiring drives your business, which drives your clients, it drives your culture. If you don't hire right, your clients don't get treated right and your business doesn't flourish like it should flourish, right? So I'm a strategic activator, communicator, all those things. So when we hire, we first hire for culture and we think about our culture, when we interview, one of our first questions we ask people is, what's your superpower? We talk a lot about superpowers, right? So I listen really hard for what their superpower is. Their superpower is I get things done. I'm a doer. I'm creative. I'm proactive. I'm strategic thinker. I'm a great communicator. People like to be around me. Those are the type of superpowers I want to hear from people and if they're very creative about it, I even get more excited about the superpowers. So that's something that we look for because the culture is one of our themes here is be curious, not judgmental. I don't know if everybody watches Ted Lasso, right? Comes from Ted Lasso. And when you work with a bunch of lawyers and you get emails from lawyers all day long, they can kind of rub on you the wrong way, if you know what I mean. Like you can read into them the wrong way,
Mhm.
like they're mad at you about something. And so we've had this theme. Let's be curious about that email, not judgmental. And your mindset will change as you read that email. So we want to hire people that have that type of mentality so that our culture grows from within. The way our team works is the way our clients are going to feel that energy from our team, and our clients are going to appreciate that as well. So, and we did the Strengths Finders test with all of our employees, and it's interesting to find that I think I was one of, I think only two other people actually had the communicator as one of their strengths. But it makes sense for me because I'm a salesperson. I communicate, I do presentations, and that came out in everything that I do as I grow the business.
Yeah.
So, and then the other thing as we grow the business, you have to be willing to take those risks and trust your team as you continue to grow and hire. So that
Oh,
was part of what we did.
absolutely. I love those insights. So let's turn a little bit about the business itself. Me, some of the messes that you've had to clean up while serving your clients. What are some things that those cleanups have taught you that are still in practice today?
Okay.
So, Peggy, moving from your role as consultant to now owning this company, I can imagine there were some bumpy roads. What were some of the early challenges that, could have potentially derailed the business?
I think luckily none of them were financially based. We were blessed with always having a growing client base, but at the same time that could have been a problem, Kim. And what we've quickly realized is we were growing rapidly, hiring, getting more clients and always trying to stay ahead of the eight ball. We made some bad hiring decisions, right? And then we had to kind of heal those wounds with our clients, right? And lawyers, you'll run into this as you do this with your own client base. But what we realized is we didn't have good systems in place, and that hurt us. So we were growing too fast to have a good foundation to build upon. And when you're doing bookkeeping and accounting work, it was very instrumental for us to have good systems to build upon. So my husband, who is a very good systems person, he's also a computer science major. He should have been an engineer. He's the one that like around that second or third year, he forced me to slow down a bit, and he took over really documenting all of our procedures and processes. And to this day, they just keep getting better and better. And the tools keep getting better and better. You got Whale, you got Notion, you got Trello, you got so many great tools out there to use. But that could have, if we had taken the time to do that, Kim, we would have never been able to scale the business like we can now. Right.
Mhm.
And growing a niche business, it grows quickly. When the word gets out there about what you do and you're really good about it. So we're being an expert. We call ourselves we're generous experts because we also give away a lot of free advice, but we're
Yeah.
definitely experts in bookkeeping for law firms, right? But it goes beyond that. It really changes the game when we decide to commit to being better, getting better at being better. So we're always trying to be better at being better. That's one of our internal goals. How can we do it better? And we strive to always be doing it better. And it's hard to do, but it's difficult to compete against.
Yes. Well said.
And when you get out there and the word gets out there, it's difficult to compete against that. We get a ton of referrals from our existing clients. That's our biggest way we get clients is from clients. And as a marketing person, that's the best business to get, right?
Absolutely.
When you do things really well and the clients get surprised by it and generally pleased about it, they talk about it, right? And they seek you out,
Yeah.
right? And they'll tell others about you.
Yeah.
So that's kind of neat.
Tell me a time that a client was delighted.
We get lots of, so we at work, we celebrate great. So we call it celebrate great. And anytime we get an email from a client that says, "Hey, Peggy, I should back up a minute. It's a family owned business. We brought our daughter into the business about 2 years ago, and she's our chief operating officer, our client success person. So a lot of the emails go to Nicole, and she'll share them with us. That hey, I just want to reach out. Luke's been doing a great job. I can't tell you how pleased I am that he's taking care of my books, my finances. I don't have to worry about a thing. Oh, I had to apply for a loan. When I got the documents to my banker, he was like shocked at what good shape they were in. Just little things like that. They thank us for being generally great to work with. We do cash flow analysis for our clients. We do invoicing for our clients. We're there to help them grow. The clients will send out just random thank you emails, and we call it Celebrate Great. So we have a whole wall in our kitchen where we post all the Celebrate Great emails that come in.
I love
And they're
that.
just very casual, thanks for being great. Thanks for helping me with this. Couldn't have run my business without you. Glad you exist.
Yes.
Things like that.
That's so important because, again, for everybody on the team, every job becomes a job at some point. And even if you're excited and you know you're in your lane and you feel like you're serving and showing up to the best of your ability, we all face burnout. And some of those things are so helpful to remember the why, to remember that you do good work and people do recognize it.
And it's even funnier when it comes from a client that tends to be a complainer. It's happened the other
More
day.
meaningful.
Yeah, it was a client, and it was somebody forwarded to us, and she said, "You won't believe this, but this actually came from so and so client." And we were like, "Wow, you're right. I don't believe it." So
It's like the
they
best win.
it was the best win.
That's
So yeah,
awesome. Well, I
yeah.
know you have lots of celebrate great success stories, but tell me about a project or a mess that you had to clean up that taught you something valuable that you still use in the practice today.
Yeah. So we do see lots of messes when we take on new clients. And I'll tell you one that sticks true. Yeah, that sticks to me very well is during COVID, Kim. So COVID started, and unfortunately, we had a lot of law firms that needed to get those loans, all those PPP loans,
Yeah.
right? And they were coming to us, but the problem was it was a hard lesson for a lot of small businesses to learn during that time. Nobody had finances together. No one thought they needed QuickBooks to run their business. No one thought they had to have a P&L. What's a P&L statement? What's a balance sheet, right? And all of a sudden they were scrambling. Hey, I need to apply for this PPP loan, and they're asking for all this information. I don't have it. I'm like, well, you don't have it because you never reconciled your accounts. You never. So we were scrambling, and I seek to help first. Our tagline is helping lawyers succeed, and I'm true to that tagline. I'll help anybody that calls me. Um, so we had to actually rebuild people's we had to set up QuickBooks for lawyers and go back and rebuild like 2022, 2023, or 2021 and 2020
Wow.
our books and QuickBooks so that they could apply for the loans. And that's what we did for them. So the lesson, hard lesson to be learning there was that lawyers, they needed to have their ducks in a row, and they didn't. Right.
Mm,
But we were able to help them do that and get it together. And of course, we retained all those people as bookkeeping clients, and they were very thankful to our service. The other thing that we learned that small business owners don't really think about, I don't think, is you need to have a really great relationship with your banker. If you're going to start a business, and if you're serious about growing your business and being a business owner, you need to find a banker that you trust and can rely on. Because at that same time, coming out of COVID, things were tough, right?
yeah.
Some of them needed lines of credits to grow on, and no one had a line of credit, right? Every business owner, and when I advise solos that come to me to start their practice, the first thing I advise them is go find yourself a bank to work with, take your banker out to lunch, and get a line of credit.
Hmm.
You might never use that line of credit, but get it anyway, because one day you might need it and you don't want to be scrambling to get it. So that was that.
Advice.
But that's one thing. But the other messes we get into, lawyers have a unique thing called trust accounting, right? They're responsible for maintaining funds that don't belong to them, and it's called trust accounting.
Mhm.
And they can lose their license over it if they're not maintained. So we get clients that come to us because they're getting audited by the state bars.
Wow.
Okay. And they'll get random audits. Or if they bounce a check, it's a mandatory audit. So they're coming to us to say, I'm getting audited and I've never reconciled my trust account. I need
Oh,
help. So we have to go back 2, 3, 4 years, rebuild all their trust account records, put together their three-way, it's called three-way reconciliation for all those years for them to submit to the state to prove that they're they got their act together and that everything's okay. That's probably one of the ones that's most rewarding because I know that their license is on the line.
yeah.
And that's the one where they're genuinely so appreciative of what we do. And we also, you know, then we keep them as clients too, which is great. But that's where we can really messes come to us. We can untangle the mess and really provide value to them.
I
Yeah,
love that, but that is terrifying when your whole livelihood is
it's terrifying.
hinged on that.
And the other messes we find is when we get into their books, we find that they're not invoicing their clients. Their cash flow is so bad. I'm like, when's the last time you invoiced your clients? Oh, I don't know, 2 or 3 months ago. I'm like, how can you run a business if you're not invoicing your clients? So getting them into a business mindset of running their business, getting cash flow, on their mind, getting the cash flow worksheet set up, thinking about doing that invoicing on a regular business, getting the money in. That's really rewarding too. So they can feel more confident about their business.
How do you sounds like you have, lots of tentacles if this was an octopus, so lots of tentacles out there that you're touching some type of process to make things smoother. How do you convey all these different touch points and aspects of your business to help position, CPN Legal so that people get it fast? They know what you do, what you provide, and you can build trust. How do you do that so quickly?
Our website has great resources, I will say that, our website does. I feel like when I'm on calls with clients, I'm pretty good at being able to summarize all that stuff, and when you're talking with a lawyer, they get it quickly because I pretty much know what terminologies to use with them. Trust accounting is the first one to start with. If they know you're a trust accounting expert and that's a pain point for them, they're going to catch on to that conversation right away. The other one is lawyers pay upfront for client costs, like filing fees or expert witnesses. So there's a lot of costs that firms will front for their clients and then later bill them for those and get reimbursed, right? But that's kind of a black hole for lawyers because sometimes they forget to bill their clients for that
Yeah.
expert witness or all those filing fees, right? Or they're not reporting them right on their P&L or in their balance sheet, right? So they're not properly recording and capturing that expense and that income so that their their P&Ls aren't right for tax purposes. They may be over reporting income, okay, or under reporting expenses, which is affecting their taxes. Okay. Or they might not be billing their clients for all these expenses that they're paying for. Okay. So when we get in there and when we start talking about that, they immediately know that I understand how law firms work. Okay. And so if I can find those three things to talk about right away, two or three things, I've captured their attention enough to know, oh, she knows what she's talking about.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. And again, kind of to your point earlier about it, so in any business, whether it's legal adjacent or not, having a niche makes that easier to understand because you start coming across these different aspects or different problems, kind of like a
Yeah.
diagnosis at a doctor.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
love that. Let's shift a little bit to your marketing. I mean, you have grown so substantially. What role has thought leadership played in your growth and marketing?
A lot. And it actually goes back to many years ago when I was just naturally doing my thing, speaking at the legal tech shows, getting involved in the American Bar Association. Those little seeds that I was planting that I had no idea was going to benefit me in what I'm doing now. So if you Google my name, you'll find me all over the place, whether I was speaking or writing blogs. That stuff's still out there, right? Feeding into what I'm doing now. I don't have much time now to do speaking, but I do speak at the Clio conference every year, which gets a lot of publicity. So there's still things I do. but I don't have a lot of time. Maybe I will in a few years when my daughter starts taking over the business more. That those little things make a big difference later on. So for people starting their own businesses, becoming known as an expert in your area starts by doing small things. And you might not think that it's going to make a big difference right now. You don't know that. So you might as well start doing it now, whether you're writing blogs or blogging or podcast. Now I think it's more podcasting than blogging, to tell you the truth.
Yeah.
But getting out there in front of people and getting it into the internet world, finding a way to work with a good marketing person to help you get it out there is going to go such a long way 3 to 4 to 5 years from now. And you're going to look back and you're going to say, you know what I always laugh about, Kim, is think about the fact that, I have grandkids and every Friday and now Thursdays, I take off to watch our daughters who runs the business with us. They're her kids. And my hashtag is Fridays with June.
I love that. I love.
But I kinda laugh because I think about when she's 15 years old and searching the internet, when she enters her grandma's name, think about what'll come up, right? She'll
Yeah.
be like, "Oh, man, my grandma would did a lot on the," she was on the internet.
Pretty
So
cool.
I kinda laugh about that stuff, but, it's kinda true. You have to start small, don't start big because you'll never do it if you start big. You
Mhm.
have to start small, but it does make a difference. You have to be a thought leader and you have to be consistent with your message.
Yes, could not agree more. So, how do you balance being this numbers person and operations expert to being that trusted advisor and really, focusing on the relationship of the client? When you have a team that large, how do you still maintain that level of intimacy?
That's a great question. I'll tell you one thing, I don't do the bookkeeping anymore because I hired a team, right? So that once I've done the sales call and had the conversation and got the client on board, we now have a really great process in place, Kim, that our client goes through so they know that they're going to have a good experience all through the process from the time they talk to me to the time they sign their contract. They go through our onboarding process, they meet our onboarding team, they go through our review, and then they get handed off to their bookkeeping team. So they've got all these touch points along the way. So they're built the whole process, they're getting confidence built. They're like, oh, these people know what they're doing, right? All along all these different touch points. So I'm removing myself from the process sooner now because eventually I have to retire. And what we found out was happening to people that are thinking about this is really important for business owners is I had to remove myself from the process because I was never going to be able to retire because they had to start CPN Legal had to become more than just Peggy Gruenke. All right. Or it had to become a business that was CPN legal, not a business that was Peggy Gruenke, right? So that's why we brought our daughter in, and I removed myself from the rest of the process. Does that make sense?
That makes total sense. I hear it
Yeah.
all the time, and I think we're even in a position as a nation of business owners that are to that point. We have more business owners that are looking to make exits with no backup
Yeah.
plan, and it's
Yeah.
yeah, it's kind of
And
alarming what
that's it.
happens to
And
small
so that
business.
you have to be thinking that way.
Yeah.
And so to your question is, I do unfortunately don't know all my clients anymore, right? I wish but I do touch base with them. We do client touch up emails. I do client touch emails. That's my job is to randomly, I'll have a set schedule to send out emails to clients. And every once in a while they're surprised. Oh my gosh, Peggy, how you doing? But I'll still try to do that to stay in touch with them. But for the most part, I've handed them off.
I like that idea,
So
but still spot
yeah,
checking and imagine
yeah,
how much value that adds or how much confidence rather that
yeah,
adds to someone when
yeah.
they've hired you. So as an operations specialist, I know you're a doer. I can already assume that. But how do you get perfectionistic lawyers to begin, going back to that Seth Godin quote, to get them to start somewhere and not miss the magic?
It's easy. They trust us. I'll tell you what, you build that trust with the lawyers and they'll do anything. And when you're building that rapport with, whether it's on that first call with them, building that genuine, having a genuine conversation with them and getting them over that hump, like, you need to hire a bookkeeper. You need to have good book. Your books are a mess. How much are you don't even know how much money you're making a year. You don't even know if you can afford to hire your next person. You don't even know how much you're spending on marketing or what your return on investment is. They kn- they don't have any data to make decisions. It's all about, I'm a data-driven person, right? So I need data in order to make business decisions, and so do they. So a lot of that conversation comes down to, if my first question on a sales call is, do you want to grow? Because that's gonna drive how I have the conversation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Some people are like, "No, I'm happy. I'm happy where I'm at." That's great. Then I'll have a different type of conversation with you. If you wanna grow, then it's gonna be a higher level conversation, right? So we have to have that conversation, and if you wanna grow, we have to have good data to report back to.
Yeah.
So that's gonna drive the decisions. Once you build trust with them, lawyers actually will move forward, and they'll trust you.
The kind of
Yeah.
not being afraid to call the baby ugly a little bit
Yeah,
in
th
a
yeah,
kind way, but you've gotta point
yeah,
out the flaws.
yeah. They're willing to hear you say, "Your books are a mess,"
Yeah. Yeah,
you
I love
know?
how you phrase that.
Yeah, and I'm not afraid to say that
Yeah,
to them, right?
being direct.
I'm being direct and honest and genuine with them, and most of the time they appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, this is a question that I'm asking anyone in this space because it's changing so rapidly, and I think we all have a little bit of a concern and or excitement and both in the back of our minds. But where do you think AI and automation, how do you think that's going to affect your business? What worries you and what excites you in this space?
We're seeing it right now in QuickBooks. We see it pop up. Um, right now, it doesn't worry me. There's things that QuickBooks has been doing, helping us do things a little bit more efficient inside of QuickBooks as well. We use it a lot. I use it personally to help compose emails, to tell you the truth. I'll use it to write blogs. I use it to give me ideas for writing blogs. It's a great tool to use. Maybe I'm being foolish, but I don't see it affecting what we do as far as the numbers, the reconciliation, the hands-on work that we do. For a while, it might, and I might be foolish, but I don't see it there yet. It might try to do that, but it's still a personal business and a personal relationship that you have with the client that can't I don't think can be replaced yet. It's not there yet. It can help you do some things a little bit faster, and it does on certain things, but it still can't replace just figuring stuff out.
Yeah,
Like, why is it, I noticed this happened. Why, there's a weird transaction here. What is this? Or I need to call you about this.
yeah,
And you always have trust accounting, which AI it will have a hard time figuring out.
yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, and just trust in general. I mean, it's just I can't even count the number of times that I hear, "I'm just so grateful to be sitting in front of someone." I mean,
Yeah.
in some ways, we're all fatigued from automation. So that
Yeah.
human touch, I think, is lost art and something that we all
Yeah.
long for.
But it'll be interesting to watch. There's a lot of
Yeah,
talk about it in the legal world for lawyers to use for preparation of documents and
absolutely.
research. There's a great place for it for that. I just don't see it affecting us doing financial bookkeeping work yet.
So Peggy, you've built plenty, but what is next? What's the next big goal for you personally and for CPN Legal?
For me personally, I am a gardener. I love gardening. I'm looking forward to I'm now down to 3 days a week because my daughter had a second child, so now I get to take off 2 days a week. She said she's not gonna have any more.
So you're in for 3.
I don't see myself ever fully getting out of the business for a long time. I actually enjoy doing the sales calls. I love the interaction. I would really miss that. So I see myself being in the business for a while, doing that type of work, and then having more time at home, spending time, working on my yard, my business, my garden. We have a daughter that lives in California, so I have a little grandson out there, and like getting out there more often, right? Doing that kind of stuff. And then my husband and I spending more time together. on that kind of front. For CPN Legal, it gonna hand that over to our daughter, and I'm excited to see what she's gonna do with it, right? Where's she gonna take it? It's gonna be her business to grow. So, I'll be she's got plans in her little head, and I'm sure she's anxious to be doing more of that stuff when we take more of a back seat. But right now, she needs us there to help her make decisions and to bounce ideas off and to help her build that team she needs.
No question. So let's just suppose for a moment you've done everything that you've aimed for. You get to spend more time with these grandbabies and you get to grow an amazing garden and you still get to be a part of an amazing business. What legacy do you hope that your grandkids remember you for?
I would want them to remember me as someone that really worked to help to help lawyers really do a better job of help people in their businesses. I want them to remember that I genuinely help people run their businesses better and that I really was passionate about doing that. That was part of why I built CPN Legal. And my little 4-year-old granddaughter, when we drive past the office, she always says, "There's CPN Legal." She calls it PC Legal. And she says that she wants to work there one day. And it's really cute. But when they look back about what we did, that's what I want. That's something that I want them to remember because I put so much effort into this,
Absolutely.
and I want that to be part of it too.
Any parting words of advice for businesses that are starting up and whether that be legal adjacent or otherwise service-based businesses, what if you could leave them with some parting words, what would they be?
My parting words would be to trust yourself, to build a team, and to trust your team because it's all that. And then what'll happen is everything that you build internally will spread out to your client base. And you want your clients to be able to feel the culture that you've built inside of your company because they'll notice it and they'll want to work with you. I get a lot of feedback on that.
Peggy, thank you for sharing your wisdom and your insights and just sharing your journey about building this amazing company. And for anybody who out there, this sparked an idea or someone who could use some services, whether that be financial cleanup and or just putting good processes in place, we are going to link CPN Legal's contact information in the show notes and definitely have you be able to link directly to Peggy. So Peggy, again, I just thank you for everything that you're doing to serve your clients and how you show up as a light in the world.
Thank you, Kim. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Likewise, we'll talk to you soon.
Okay.